Okay, so if you've watched the company intro video, you should be somewhat familiar with who we are as a company and what our teaching ethos and method is. If you haven't watched that video yet, I would suggest pausing this one and watching that one first. In this video, we'll be looking at actually working for Shane as a company and more generally, some important things to know about working in Taiwan. First of all, these are the people that you'll be working with at your school. There's the school manager or possibly managers who are responsible for the school operations, staff management, parent feedback and student recruitment. Working alongside the school manager will be a team of front desk staff who focus on student recruitment as well, and also opening new classes, and will deal with inquiries and feedback from parents and students. There are also usually Taiwanese teachers and or teaching assistants who may help out in your classroom and may teach additional classes on their own. They will also generally communicate with parents for you, as there won't be any language or cultural barriers for them, and will help organise and participate in school events. Now, there's an important point to mention here about teaching assistants. When they are in the classroom, remember that they are there to help, but should never be asked to teach for you. They can help with setting up activities and monitoring the students while they do things like bookwork, but you shouldn't ask them to teach for you, and they shouldn't speak Chinese unless absolutely necessary, and obviously should not act as your gopher. They will also mark most of the students' homework during class time, so we'll often be busy with that, but the teacher will need to mark the freer writing homework. Then last but not least are the teachers, whose core responsibilities are teaching effective lessons, planning those lessons, completing administrative tasks, and also helping out with school events. Now, there are two different types of Shane School: DTE, which stands for Direct Teaching Establishment, and Franchise. At a DTE school, your direct line manager is the member of the academic department in head office who is responsible for your school. This will generally be one of the directors of studies. At a franchise school, your direct line manager is your school manager or school owner. You will also have an academic line manager, which will usually be one of the directors of studies from head office, and they will be available to help. Exactly who your direct line manager and or academic line manager is will be made clear when you come to training week, but the director of studies that you'll be working with will be someone who has been working in the industry for a while and very happy to help with all sorts of things, be it general help with living in Taiwan, teaching a certain language point, tips on classroom management, any misunderstandings about your contract, or anything else that you want to talk to someone about. Obviously, this is an organisation of mixed nationalities, cultures and native languages, so it should probably be expected that from time to time there may be some misunderstandings at work. Almost everyone I know here has a funny anecdote or two about something that happened due to a misunderstanding somewhere, be it cultural or language based. Some may not seem so funny at the time, but we do encourage everyone to see these misunderstandings as part of the fun of living in a new culture and to try to learn from them where possible. One key thing to keep in mind is the importance of saving face in Taiwan. Try not to directly show anger if there is a situation that makes you angry, and always avoid acting emotionally or angrily in public areas. Now, how about what you will get from working with us? Well, as you will have seen from the previous video, we focus on fun and enjoyable teaching, and the kids are often a lot of fun. You'll gain a lot of varied teaching experience and training with ongoing support essentially available at all times from head office. Some of the support we provide is as follows. An initial training week which covers the fundamentals of everything that we do. Training workshops throughout the island and throughout the year. Observations and feedback. A appraisals in the 2nd and 7th month of your contract, manuals and websites chock full of ideas for teaching and with guides and explanations of our policies. The two main manuals are the PAM and the training manual, which you will receive on the first day of training. We also have the Shane Teachers Room, which can be accessed via this link and password. Now, the process for observations is as follows. You'll be informed of the observation ahead of time and will be asked to prepare a lesson plan. The class will then be observed, most often by the Director of Studies. There will then be a feedback meeting, usually conducted a few days later over a video call, and at the end of the meeting some action points are agreed upon. These will be points to work on in your teaching, usually 3 main areas you'd like to focus on. Now, the aim of the whole observation and feedback process is always on teacher development. You may also be observed from time to time by the following people: your franchise school owner or manager or managers who may just want to check in to see how you're getting on, by other teachers, be it more experienced teachers helping you out or newer teachers learning from you, by students, parents during presentation days, which are also called sometimes Parents' Days. These are the last day of term and the parents will come into the classroom for about the last 20 or 30 minutes of the class, and also by prospective students who each get 1 free trial lesson. So if you see a new face in your room, it could be a trial student. Encourage them to join in and try to treat them like any other student, but if they're shy, don't force them to do anything that they don't want to do. There are also lots of opportunities to build a career within the company, with lots of senior teacher, director of studies, recruitment and publishing roles available. And while we can't guarantee this, I've certainly had some interesting experiences in Taiwan with a fun life both in and outside of work. I've also found Taiwanese people to be warm and friendly, and while everyone has a different experience, it does generally help to learn at least a little bit of Mandarin Chinese while you're here. Now, as with any workplace, there are some expectations for you from your manager, and these are as follows. Obviously, it's important that all of your lessons are fully prepared and planned for, so we recommend that you arrive at the school around 30 minutes before the start of your first class, as it should take at least this amount of time to plan. For back-to-back classes, you may want to arrive slightly earlier than that, and the latest arrival time is 15 minutes before the start of your first class. We also have a dress code, which is outlined in the PAM. Essentially, it's just what would generally be considered suitable for an office in Taiwan, such as shirts, ties, formal trousers, formal shoes, blouses, formal skirts, and dresses. Clothing items such as jeans, t-shirts, sandals, and more casual wear are generally not acceptable. Although if you're teaching very young learners, you may be able to wear a Shane t-shirt in lieu of more formal attire. All of our sites, including head office and every Shane school across the island, have strict no smoking policies. So if you do smoke, make sure you do so away from the building and out of sight of parents and students. And we also ask that no matter what your reasons are for being in Taiwan, that you do treat the workplace as a place of work and fulfill all responsibilities as required. This includes maintaining a professional attitude when interacting with everyone at work. Okay, on to something that's important to everyone: money. There are a few different things to talk about here. One is the THA system, another is sign sheets and pay slips, and then at the end we'll talk a little bit about how taxes are done in Taiwan. First of all then, what is the THA? Well, most new teachers are on the THA, but please double check your contract to see if this applies to you or not. Now, it stands for Teaching Hours Allowance and is a system where teachers are paid a regular wage at the start of their contract. This helps to provide peace of mind while your teaching schedule stabilises and while you deal with the setup costs involved with moving to a new country. Okay, so how does it work? Well, teachers on the THA are paid 20 hours per full Monday to Friday week, so usually 80 hours per month, regardless of how many hours they teach in a given week. So if you teach 25 hours per week, you're paid for 20, but also if you teach 15 hours per week, you're also paid for 20. The hours taught compared to the hours paid are tracked in an hours bank. If you teach more than 20 hours per week, you will have a positive balance, and if you teach less than 20 hours per week, you will have a negative balance. Now, this is initially for the first 4 months of the contract while your schedule stabilises. At the end of the 4-month period, those with a positive balance come off the THA system, and any hours owed to them from the hours bank are paid. Those who still have a negative balance will remain on the THA system, usually until the balance is either even or positive. To help avoid too much of a deficit, 5 hours are deducted from the THA for things like holidays, typhoon days, or sickness. Basically, whenever scheduled work doesn't take place. This also matches how teachers are paid when they come off the THA system and are paid for the hours they teach. Now, an example THA system is as follows. In month 1, say you were at your school working for 2 weeks. You're therefore paid 40 hours on the THA system, as that's 20 hours times 2. However, you only taught 20 hours during those 2 weeks, so there are minus 20 hours in the hours bank, as you've so far been paid for 20 hours more than you actually taught. In month 2, there were 4 full weeks, so you would have been paid 80 hours on the THA system. However, there was 1 typhoon day, so to avoid you being paid extra hours on the THA than were actually taught, your total THA payment this month is 75 hours, reduced 5 hours for the typhoon day. In this month, you taught 70 hours, so the negative balance in your hours bank has therefore grown just a little bit by 5 more hours. In month 3, your schedule seems to have stabilised more now, and you have taught 90 hours. You were paid the standard 80 hours, so this month you were able to knock off 10 hours from the hours bank deficit. And in month 4, you taught 95 hours, which is a really healthy schedule, and were also off sick one day. As a result, you were paid 75 hours on the THA, which means you knocked off 20 hours from the hours bank deficit. At the end of the 4-month period, then, you have a positive balance of 5 hours, which will be paid to you, and you will then come off the THA system and be paid for the hours you teach moving forward. Now, if you're wondering if there's any risk for you to lose money, fear not. Assuming you complete your contract, the only party who can lose money are the school if you're still negative at the end of your contract, as they've paid you extra across the course of the contract. If after the full 1-year contract you still have a negative balance, the school will forfeit any owed hours. Also, if you have a positive balance before the end of the initial 4-month period and would like to come off the THA system early, you can request to do so. Just get in touch with your direct line manager or academic line manager and they'll help with how to do this. There have also been times that the school has chosen to take the teachers off the THA system before or after the 4-month period. If the school decides to do this, then they forfeit any hours owed. Okay, now sign sheets and pay slips. So the hours that you teach, and this applies to both teachers on and off the THA system, are recorded each month on a sign sheet that will look a bit like this. It's suggested that you sign or write your initials in the boxes of the classes that you taught at the end of each day. And then at the end of the month, double check those hours and the total and take a photo or make a photocopy of the sign sheet. The sign sheet is then used to calculate your pay, so it's useful to keep a record of this. Now, once the hours are totaled up, your salary will be paid into a Taiwanese bank account, and you will be given a pay slip which will detail your hours, your pay, and your tax deductions and things like that. Here's an example of a pay slip with the kind of information that you can expect to see on it. Speaking of taxes, Shane English School teachers are taxed according to Taiwanese tax laws. The tax year runs from the 1st of January to the 31st of December, and taxes are filed by the end of May in the following year. Teachers working with an ARC are taxed at 18% until they've stayed in the country for 183 days during a tax year. After the 183 days, the tax is reduced to 5%, and the 13% difference will be returned as a rebate when taxes are filed in the following year. So, in a nutshell, for the first 183 days in any calendar year, the tax rate is 18%. For the first 183 days of being in Taiwan, the tax rate would also be 18%. After you have been in Taiwan for 183 days in a calendar year, the tax rate is 5%, and you will receive a rebate after filing taxes. Please note though, rebates are paid to people who have been in Taiwan for 183 days in a tax year. So if you arrive in Taiwan in, say, the month of November, you'll be taxed at 18% for November and December, but won't be eligible for a rebate on those months, because you won't have been in Taiwan for 183 days in that tax year. However, from January of the subsequent year, you'll be taxed at 18% for the first 6 months of that year, and assuming you're in Taiwan for at least 183 days in that tax year, you'll then be eligible for the rebate. Now, a big part of the onboarding process is attending our week of training. When you come to training week, you'll be given the full schedule in person, but generally the modules will run from Monday to Friday, usually, with a focus on teacher-led modules in the mornings and trainee demos in the afternoons. There will also be some video lesson observations, as well as some lesson planning homework and an end-of-week assignment. The skills covered during training week will be as follows: how to structure lessons, how to motivate and manage children, how to present language clearly, how to practice language, and how to teach very young learners, as well as more advanced young learners as well. Now, the purpose of Training Week is to prepare you for teaching our classes and for working at our schools, and ultimately to develop what we consider to be good qualities for an EFL teacher. These are being motivated, having the ability to build rapport, the ability to be adaptable, being organised, and also being reflective, as self-reflection is super important for your own development as a teacher. Thanks everyone, we look forward to seeing you soon.